Welcome to yet another episode of The Shift powered by ETH Insights. The Shift showcases business leaders who delve into the intricacies of their fields, uncovering challenges, opportunities, and strategies for moving forward. The power sector and discoms in India face massive aggregate technical and commercial losses every year. It is largely due to poor power quality, a lack of uniform power flow in transmission, power theft, and deficiencies in metering. In July 2021, the government launched the revamped power distribution sector system in a bid to stem these losses. An integral part of this plan is Gurgaon-based IntelliSmart, which is India's leading smart metering and digital solutions provider. Today, we have with us Anil Rawal, MD and CEO of IntelliSmart, who will take us through the work in smart metering, its benefits for both consumers and utilities, and the immense potential that gas metering presents. Stay tuned for The Shift to gain valuable insights from industry experts and stay ahead of the curve. Hello, Mr. Rawal. Welcome to ETH Insights. To begin with, to take the overall industry view, the government has set a target of replacing nearly 250 million conventional meters with smart meters by 2027. How is that plan progressing?
So it's quite a humongous target. First of all, let's understand, and it by all means and measures, the largest ever done in globe, at least within the time frame which we are targeting, if not in absolute sense. So across the globe, it has taken some time, rather normally 8 to 10 years, to transition into any scale of smart metering and digitalization at distribution level. While what India is trying to do is extremely, I would say, appreciable and commendable task which we are trying to achieve. So out of this 250 million which you said, about 220 million have been sanctioned by Government of India, because it's a central government scheme primarily to be implemented by the state. And out of 220 million, about 140 million have been ordered already. And so I would say at least first part of the story in terms of ordering and putting responsible people on the ground is over, largely over. And out of that, implementation is already started, and about 20 million are already on the ground. So I would believe it's quite a good pace of rollout. This rollout actually has a significant milestone in terms of system testing, which is called System Acceptance Testing, called SAT. SAT why it's a milestone is that if you achieve that milestone, that your system is accepted by distribution companies as well as proven in terms of mass rollout. So in most of the cases, first phase is on. In some of them, first phase is over and the mass rollout has started. In some of them, first phase of SAT is still on. And I would believe the large takeoff of the program would happen after the first stage of SAT is over. So I would feel that it's quite progressing well. In large program, there are always hiccups. So this program is also facing its initial hiccups. But I am very confident that it's moving well as of now. Yeah.
Looking at the many benefits of smart metering, so apart from the immediate goals of loss reduction and cost savings, what are the broader impacts of smart metering on the power sector and even the economy?
Right. So it's a really great question, because power sector has always been a leading sector, like any other infra. Once you make the infra available, the rest of the things follow. And power is obviously leading infra. And I would divide your question into two parts. One would be what is the impact on power sector as such. And second is what is the impact on overall economy. As far as power sector is concerned, it's easy to understand that power sector can be divided into power distribution, power transmission, power generation. And the country has seen good, I would say, reforms in power generation, power transmission so far, with significant private investment being coming to these parts of the story. Now in power sector, who pays for all is power distribution, because they are the paymasters. Rest everybody takes. And incidentally, luckily, unluckily, we never had any major reforms in power distribution. So no significant private investment has been coming in the distribution sector, because that has not been coming and pace has not been gathered. So distribution sector has been suffering for some time, I would believe. While there have been multiple efforts on this, but then frankly, the results are yet to be the kind we would always like. So this is the first good chance for power distribution sector in transforming from a probably a not so good financially and operationally efficient section of the chain to a great place to be in, either for operational purposes or financial purposes or for investment purpose. And by smart metering, because you are changing the psyche and culture of the way electricity is seen in the country as a user charge based commodity, so this would actually be making the sector robust in terms of two major things: one, their own efficiencies; two, how consumers see the sector. So for consumer, it's a given thing that there could be load shedding, there could be poor quality power, and you have to take it. And because you're taking it, you don't pay for it nicely. So as I said, it's a change in psyche. Now you are not only ensuring that you are getting financially robust, you are seeking the user charges also. So once you are operationally robust and you're seeking the charges from consumer, you are far more financially sound compared to you were ever. So because distribution sector becomes sounder, it can pay for those value chain parts which were suffering, because distribution sector was not paying well to transmission or to generation. So all the assets of transmission generation were suffering, and these were the NPAs around those. Everything gets sorted out. Once distribution sector is robust, healthy, operationally sound, financially solid, it pays for transmission and generation. The whole power value chain gets a quite a significant uptick, and that's where the power sector becomes a very attractive, and that is now translating. You would see all the best largest of investors are now in power distribution. It's now not gaining kind of traction which we always wanted, and that's the impact on the power itself. And coming to economy, once you enable power, the whole things change. Why? Because today what we are cross subsidizing, we are charging heavily on industry, we are charging heavily on C&I, we are charging heavily on those users, consumers who pay, on the cost of those who don't pay.
Yes.
This program primarily envisages this transition, that everybody who consumes pays. Once it happens, it's obvious that you charge less on C&I, charge less on industry, making them more competitive. So it's a direct boost in cost efficiency of those industries, and hence the whole economy gets a positive boost. The third part, which we should not miss, is extremely important, that we are targeting to net zero. We have certain targets by 2030 or 500 gigawatt renewable to be coming, having 50% of energy from renewable, having the EV mission, having certain number of EVs. All this requires a solid demand side management. So there could be generation side management, which is not easy to do. Demand side management is extremely critical for a smart grid, for integrating these renewables, integrating these EVs. This cannot be integrated unless you have good demand side management, and that can only come once you have measuring appliances like smart meters, who actually project the requirements every 15 minutes. You have granular control on your demand. You can project it accordingly to the grid. Grid can manage it very well. Because grid is managing very well, so renewable can come, because renewable brings in the variability in the grid. Renewables to be integrated requires grid to be resilient, because it will be quite variable. This variability gets managed very well when you have demand side management. That's where smart meters have their very solid case of managing this renewable integration. Similarly, the EV side. Once we have too many EVs in area, if you have too many EVs and they start charging, there's a load on the grid. This grid is not so solid down the distribution transformer towards our homes that it can manage such load suddenly. Now, once you have smart meter, you can control charging and non-charging of smart EVs through this meter. This meter become a ticking appliance for allowing you to charge or not charge, and giving you indication of time of day tariff. That if you charge at this time, you will be charged so much per unit. If you charge at this time, you will charge less. So what you will do as a consumer, charge the EV at the time when you are being tariff is low. So this can also be triggered through smart meter. So having EV mission in the country, having solar rooftop, which again would supply the power two-way. Every consumer become prosumer. So once you're supplying the power to grid, it has to be accounted for. These meters are net meters. They'll account for that also. So what I'm trying to say is that renewable integration and all our aspirations on net zero can just not be moved forward without this kind of digitalization on ground. So I think these are some of the cases which are very critical for smart metering, and that's where they have massive role to play in coming.
Of the three parts that you touched upon, I think digitalization is like one of the key components. So the data that is generated through the smart metering system, how can one leverage it to understand the energy efficiency patterns better? And what role does AI ML play in it?
So incidentally, when the program started, the country had around losses to the tune of 25 to 30%. Literally means that whatever we do in the country in power sector, 1/3 is lost. So obviously it is just impossible to run such kind of business where you do more, lose more. So naturally do less. Yeah. So that was the general approach towards the power sector. Unless you bring the losses to the level where most of the developed countries or countries who have done well on stand also, they stand on 7 to 8%. So now moving to that is quite a steep journey. So government targeted 12 to 15% under RDSS program, which is a very, I would say, modest target to have. And we have been doing very well as country. We are already at 17% from that large number. And I'm very hopeful that we are moving very well on that. So that's why it was envisaged largely a T&D loss reduction program, because that was quite a pit to fill in, and that itself makes about 1.5 lakh crore rupees of savings to the nation. So that was the prime use case which was targeted under this program. And if you see the current framework, it actually looks for that. But you are bang on in saying that whether that's all. I would say that is hardly first use case. There are multiple more use cases which come with smart metering, and I think another which you refer to is significant in terms of data. So as you rightly brought out, every 15 minutes, every meter generates a data byte, which goes to the backend digital system and gets stored. So that basically means in 24 hours there will be 96 readings, say 100 approximately, means 250 million to 100. That's kind of data. 25 billion data units are being generated every day. It's humongous. I don't know any other system which generates so much of data, at least in the known premises. So that's for sure that you have sitting on large data. Now whether it's useful data or it's a liability, it is to be seen. It's obviously very useful data because it tells about consumer. It tells everything about a consumer. What time one consumes, how much one consumes, what are the patterns, what time of the day most of the people consume, what time industry consumes. So all the demand side management becomes extremely easy if you know this data, if you analyze it. Second, whether anybody is stealing, because our peaks, means as consumer I am saying, are different than consumption peaks of the commercial or industry. So it's very easy to identify whether there's industry in the home or there's home in the industry. So there's little chance of anybody playing game with the system. So that captures real-time information. So it gives you theft analysis. Then network management. You as distribution company, there's so much of O&M being done. It's required also. So where to deploy people? As of now, you spread out the people, and they are available irrespective of whether you need them or not, or you keep them running. So deployment of people and deployment of assets. Which segment of my grid is weak? Frankly, I don't know today. This gives me that information. Where should I be investing? Should I be investing all across? Should I be investing target wise, or I should be targeting my investments? This is all known. So you can optimize your investments. So it's not blanket investment. So it saves you huge amount of money in terms of O&M, network asset management, investments in infra, theft analysis, consumer behavior pattern analysis, their needs, segmentation, and many more things. So it gives you real-time information. But then, as you rightly brought out, this data is to be used.
Right.
Unless you use it, and how do you use this? Data is coming. You have to have a commercial arrangement. What is missing today is data is there, and willingness is there to use, because IntelliSmart did 2 pilots on the data, and we did AIML analysis of the data in Haryana and Bihar, which were appreciated a lot. Actually, IntelliSmart got international award on that. But why it's not being used, despite everybody accepting that this data is very valuable, is for two reasons. One is because there is lack of commercial arrangement. This is not a straightforward thing. From the data, you have to create value. It's value being created out of thin air. I mean to say that you're not having that, you can create that. So there has to be solid commercial arrangement where you can incentivize the AIML doing agency to get reasonable revenue in right structuring. So and distribution companies to go for tendering on this, and so competitively discover prices. So that's one commercial framework which actually needs to be done up. The first, second part is general sense of feeling that if I put my data open to such analysis, whether there'll be any issues of data privacy. I think that is easier because now a very solid framework is emerging on cybersecurity and data analysis. If that is taken care of, that gets obviously handled. So these two things, if they are sorted out, I think this data is a massive treasure which distribution companies are sitting, and it's going to add only day by day. And AI is there to help us to really improve our analysis and give insights which will be really very useful in terms of value creation. We did analysis with McKinsey on this, and it actually came out of the fact that about 25,000 crore rupees of revenue, additional revenue, can be generated through ML analysis of this data, which is huge. So I would believe the country has to move forward on this and really generate value out of this.
You have called smart metering the cornerstone of India's future energy ecosystem. You are now also dipping your toes in gas metering. Could you please elaborate a bit on how that works?
Sure. Out of multiple utilities, we have electricity was loss-making business proposition for distribution companies, and as I said, T&D loss reduction was one of the key use cases which has been rolled out very well. I'm very conscious of the fact that gas smart metering is the obvious next. Why? Because consumer segment in gas is not a very profitable segment. How do you reduce your costs there and give better consumer, I would say, experience, and have the data and do lesser O&M so that it becomes efficient business segment for CGDs, as well as more, I would say, happy experience for the consumers. For that, I would think that smart metering has to enter in gas segment. I think it's piercing in slowly. Pace is slow. I would think a lot more is to be done on the commercial framework side. As SBD came in electricity sector, it perpetuated the whole thing quite a lot. I would think gas smart metering has to strike this commercial balance between the utilities and the gas agencies, in metering agencies, I would say, so that there's a healthy commercial arrangement. So that's, I think, which should come up. But I think this is happening. We have completed our first project, a small pilot. We have got second one, and we are very keen to really deliver on this segment also, and it has immense business potential and proposition to be really worked on. So I'm very sure this will get scaled up very soon, and FY26, the next year of financial year, should see a large number coming on this side. I would think even beyond gas also, water, that's also commodity which needs to be more rightly commercialized in terms of balance of interests. And there also the smart metering on OPEX mode, the way it has been electricity, can be very helpful. We are looking at that also with time, and hopefully that we'll see these things rolling out soon in the country. Yeah.
So now, looking ahead, how do you envision the role of IntelliSmart, in India's smart energy transition, and how do you plan to scale up the impact as well?
Sure. As we discussed, we have moved well in electricity. IntelliSmart is not only meant to be a company, frankly. We are always thought that we are, along with being a company, responsible company, we are a platform which has to develop the ecosystem. And that's what we have done. I'm very conscious of the fact, and I have pride in saying that number of smart meter manufacturers have grown a lot, many more compared to what they were a year or 2 years back. And we have really been helping them to grow along with us. And similarly, the solution companies, IT companies who were not that big earlier, have really got along with us, and we have a significantly large partnership program where we partner with our suppliers and partners to really grow mutually. And that's where we believe our role is to develop ecosystems, not only the company. And so far we have been very happy and proud of the fact that we have been able to do that well. Now coming to our role from here, electricity I think is largely on no U-turn track. It has to go through. It will make a significant change in the whole, I would say, canvas of the country's electricity distribution program. Along with that, I would believe our role now starts in gas. And as I said, after seeing some of the utilities come turning green from red due to smart metering, it gives us further impetus that we can move on from here. We can not only develop our portfolio more in electricity, we should develop our portfolio in gas. As I said, we should develop on water. But more than that, our aim is to look beyond AMISP program. When I say this, I meant to say that having AMISP program which actually works from meter to the system applications and generating data, we should be contributing towards the billing systems of the distribution utility. So far billing systems are legacy billing systems are really not great in handling so much of data. There now we are entering. We would like to contribute to the strength of the billing systems in the country, because ultimately billing systems are important. They generate the bills, they keep the records, they give information to consumers. So we are working on that. That's another area where the end-to-end value chain would get completed once we do the billing system strong. So as I said, the gas, water, electricity, billing systems, and digital projects. When you brought out AIML part, we are very keen. As I said, commercial framework is required. We are working on that with government. I'm sure that government would be working more on this and give us a framework where we can participate a lot more, work with the utilities, and really do the AML part of this story. In addition to that, we are keen to work on further digital projects, SCADAs and other areas which actually would add to the efficiency of the system. In addition, we are looking at carbon credit, which has never been rolled out so far in the country, and incidentally across the globe, the carbon credits on the distribution segment are not tapped. We are looking with certain partners. Already we are active on this. We would like to have this business built up for the utilities as well as for the companies like us to create value, because there's a scaled up program possibility on that side also. These are the few areas which we are immediately looking at to really diversify and add value on that.
A few areas are actually like empowering a new tomorrow.
Yeah, sure.
So I think we really have to say that more power to you as you take India to a brighter, smarter, and more energized future. So
Sure.
thank you, Mr. Rawal, for joining ETH Insights today.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.